Hi, welcome to Let's Catch a Cliche. This week's common saying or common quote is, you can't take it with you. I've heard this from my grandmother, I've heard this from my aunties, I've heard it from the mothers and the women in the church. Anytime they think I'm getting a little too wrapped up in worldly possessions, and when I start talking about succeeding at work, acquiring wealth, getting a bigger house, getting a nicer car, someone will inevitably say, you can't take it with you, honey. It's like they want to remind me or encourage me that I can acquire all these things here on earth, but they're really not going to amount to anything once I die and leave here. So I shouldn't be chasing after these things. Well, they're right to a certain degree. But what the Bible shows us is that, in fact, everything you do here is an investment for your life after this one. In fact, we're only living here to live again. Would you believe that everything you do counts towards your experience in either heaven or hell? As good as heaven is described in the Bible, as wonderful, as amazing, as indescribable as heaven is painted, the picture of heaven that's painted in the Bible in the book of Revelations and the visions in Isaiah, you can't imagine it getting any better. Well, it can. Like, I can't imagine going to heaven and thinking that it could get any better than just being there. If you've ever done a study on the crowns you'll receive in heaven, your mind will be blown. There are 5 different crowns that you'll receive in heaven. One of them is righteousness. Another is God's blessing. But it gets real specific. I'm just going to challenge you to do that one on your own. Seek it out. Find out about the crowns that you'll receive if and when you get to heaven. But here's the deal. You can't take it with you. Malachi 3:10 is one of those scriptures that is often referenced when we talk about bringing the tithes into the storehouse. You'll hear preachers and ministers say it all the time. Bring your tithes into the storehouse, give your tithes to the church, be committed, be obedient in your tithes, so that God will then reward you. Well, this is one of those investments that you make where the rewards are not here on earth alone. You will experience the rewards on earth. I mean, it's like paying your money at home. When you bring your salary home to your house, then your bills get paid. When you bring home a little extra, then you get a little extra. That's how it works for the church. It's really basic and very simple and practical. But in the obedience of doing that, in trusting God with your money, in investing in God's kingdom here on earth, what you're doing is securing extra jewels in your crown in heaven. I don't know about you, but I don't have a problem with getting a little extra once I get to heaven. I'm a little extra right now on earth. In fact, I have a car that I get a lot of attention for. It's a muscle car, it's a Challenger, and I have to admit, when I'm riding around, a lot of times I draw attention. But what I've done with that attention, I think, will honor God. It's my intention to honor Him in everything that I do. So what I've found is I enjoy the car. I enjoy riding it as fast as I can go and traveling places I wouldn't otherwise have gone. But what the car has done is it's made an opportunity for me to speak to people who would otherwise never even give me a second look. There are people who don't look like me. There are people who aren't in my educational class. There are people who aren't in my economic class who stop and start a conversation about that car. As far as I'm concerned, the car belongs to God. He can use it any way He wants. But whenever they ask me about the car and why I have it or how I got it, my response is always the same. I'm blessed. The God that I serve gives me blessings and abundant living right now and on earth. I'm not one who's willing to wait until I get to heaven to see what heaven feels like. I need to feel it now. And so one of the things that God has done, whether it's because I deserve it or He just has grace and mercy on this pitiful little fool, but whatever it is, He decided to bless me with it. And so as much as possible, I will give people rides in it. I will allow people to take pictures with it. I will stop and start a conversation with people. But this conversation may start with the car, but it always ends with God. So in everything that God gives you, you can invest now in the opportunity to get more crowns, more jewels in your crown in heaven. Your investments in this life are not just for this life alone. They are for where you're going when you leave here. Now, if you go to hell, that's a different story. If you have no desire to be saved, that's a different story. But salvation is available to everybody. And so you can't take it with you, only goes so far. This one, I'm sorry, is false. We just caught another cliche. You can take it with you. You can acquire wealth here in this life. You can obtain a nice house and a nice car. You just can't obtain it for your own selfish needs. You can't obtain it for seeking your own selfish pleasures. When you obtain these things, do you use them to feed the poor? Do you use them to clothe your brother or your sister or someone who's in need? Are your intentions with them pure and after God? Anytime that you can use what you've got to get what you want, you're following after the world. But when you can use what you've got to get people closer to God, you're worshiping Him and honoring Him. You can take it with you. I'm Nikki Paris, and we just caught another cliche. Follow us, like us, subscribe. We want to see you again in the social media.